Hey there, everybody. I hope you are so excited for your resources this month. First up, I have for you a self-control classroom counseling lesson. So, this is a brand new resource I just added to my TPT store, and it is for the little ones. We're talking about those primary age students, PK, K, and first. So, some of you work with the little guys, and I know there's not a lot out there, so I was really excited to create this for you. So I'm calling them class lessons for littles. And let's talk about how you would create class lessons for primary students. So it's important to keep it movement based, right? So we want to have a movement based icebreaker that's really fun. A story is always great. Any kind of games keep kids engaged along with songs. Love to do a coloring page. So again, we're keeping this with low writing, right? Because writing is really challenging for these guys, and reading is really challenging because they're still learning these skills, right? So we're going to keep this for more verbal activities and verbal responses instead of writing responses, and I'll showcase that in a little bit when I get to the to get out the door. And then also it's more doing than sitting because we know these little wiggle worms can't sit still for long. So here's what it looks like in action, just so you can kind of get an idea. And of course, I give you a counselor's guide with some Ask a Student standards. Those are those mindsets and behaviors that I align everything to. I give you a few objectives, and then I have a couple supplemental resources for you here. One is it's like a DIY monster drawing because this one's monster themed. So just something fun I think you could do if you go to the classroom twice a month or if you have a little extra time. And then of course there's the digital version. So I'm going to show you the digital version in more detail at the end. And I have for you the outline. So if you're doing this without the digital version, if you're just doing the straight up in-person version, you would print this outline and it tells you exactly what you need to know going in. First up is an icebreaker that is freeze dance. So this is really fun. So right when you get in the room, you want to get the kids' attention, start playing some crazy music and have them go crazy, dancing, 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 and then pause, freeze. And that's like a fun thing, and it's a way to practice self-control. But they don't know they're learning about self-control yet. We're going to tie that in later in the lesson. This is just a way for them to, get all the wiggles out before the lesson starts. Then a read aloud story. So I came up with this funny little monster named Smagoo, and Smagoo struggles with self-control. He's very relatable. So you're going to read this story about Smagoo. So you would print these out, and then you would read it like you would a storybook. So, maybe you're sitting in a chair and all the kids are on the floor. Then we have a discussion circle. So to reflect on the Smagoo story, we're going to have a discussion circle. So get all the kiddos in a circle, get a ball. You're going to write the numbers 1 through 5 on it. So you can just write it on there with a marker or tape little pieces if you don't want to, mess up your ball. And you're going to toss the ball, and whoever catches it, their hands are going to land in 2 areas, and they're going to pick the number that they're closest to. Or if they're touching 2 numbers, they can just pick 1 number. So they'll say, ooh, I'm touching number 2. So then you would read number 2, which says, what could Smagoo do to stay in control? So there's different questions. What advice would you give to Smagoo? Have you ever felt like him? How do you think he could, handle this better? When's it hard for you to show self-control? And these are some big questions. I mean, we can keep it surface level for the little guys, or you can dig deeper in the explanations as well. And then, so now that we've talked about Smagoo and we've done the presents, now we're going to really dive deep into okay guys, this is called self-control. So we're going to do a self-control introduction. So basically it's a poster you're going to show them. So you could print this out, you can hang it up in their classroom, but they're going to define self-control. So I like to read the poster to them, and then you can talk about how it relates back to the icebreaker activity. So you can talk about how what staying in control looks like, and how in the icebreaker we were kind of losing control and going silly, but self-control is when we hit pause, we knew we had to kind of get it together. That's being in control of your feelings and actions. Then I like to talk about coping strategies. So we're not going to dive too deep on this, but just introduce a few coping strategies, things like deep breathing, counting to 10, squeezing a stress ball, and see if, raise your hand if you guys have ever counted to 10 when you felt upset, or if you've ever taken a deep breath. And you can practice a few of them there as well. Next up is a self-control song. So you're going to sing this together. I'll sing it. I'm not a great singer at all, but it's more like a rhyme, I guess. And you can do some hand movements too. So I was singing something like this. If you don't want to play, that's okay. If I don't get my way, that's okay. I won't hit or hide. I'll take 5. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then you're going to go slowly, and they're going to take deep breaths in between the numbers. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So getting the kids to do that, that's them practicing that coping strategy through the song. Then the coloring page, this is just for fun. They can color this picture of Smagu and, keep singing the song as they're coloring. That's always fun. Then a ticket out the door. So we do want to do a little data collection. It's hard when you have a group and it like this big, and it's hard when you have the little guys. So what we want to do is I'm just going to have them select a shape to represent a coping strategy they'd like to try. So you're going to have this printout here that says, square equals take deep breaths, circle, count to 10, and triangle, squeeze a ball. So remember, not everyone can read, so you can just say, okay guys, the square is take deep breaths, so color in your square if you want to try that one. Remember, we practiced in the song. Or color in your circle if you want to practice counting to 10. Or color in your triangle if you want to practice squeezing a stress ball. So, explain it to them and have the visual, and then let them color it in. They don't need to write their name. Don't make it complicated. And then they're just going to pass them out on the way out the door if they're coming to you, or if you went to their classroom, you can just go around and pick them up. Now, if you don't want to print out the paper and mess with all that, you can just have them write it on a scrap piece of paper. Get a scrap piece of paper and draw a square, circle, or triangle. So that's an easy way to do some data collection for this resource. And of course, there is the digital version. So the digital version accomplishes a couple things. Your print is low because a lot of this is really colorful, so you don't need to print those big colorful pages. However, if you do print them, laminate it. You'll use it time and time again. But instead, you can just project it, on the screen. You can show them the story. And then instead of where the other version, you're kind of following that outline that has the song and the coping strategies, this time you'll have it all projected up there so they can kind of see it as you're talking. Again, not everyone can likely read at this age, but it's just kind of a guide for you. It's almost like a visual outline for you as you progress through the lesson to know what's coming next. The only thing that's not included in the digital version that you would need to prep is the coloring sheets, obviously. Okay, guys, so that is Smagu and the self-control lesson for the little ones. I hope you love it as much as I do.